On this day in 1981, An American Werewolf in London was released into theaters. It's one of those movies that you watch and you understand why people still talk about it. It's a weird movie. It's a horror movie, but it's also a comedy, and it's pretty disturbing at times, and then a couple seconds later it'll make you laugh. And somehow it all works. If you've never seen it, I'd recommend checking it out. The movie starts out with two American guys traveling through England. And right away you could tell they probably should have just listened to the locals. They stop at a creepy pub in the middle of nowhere, and everybody there's just acting kind of weird. They eventually end up leaving, and before they go, they're pretty much warned not to go out into the moors. Of course, they don't listen, and that's when they get attacked by a werewolf. Jack gets killed, David survives, and that's where things get really weird. David wakes up in the hospital, and everybody is telling him Jack is dead, and that they were attacked by some kind of animal. But David knows what he saw, and Jack starts appearing to him. But Jack is now a mutilated corpse. But this is where the movie really starts showing you what makes it different. Jack keeps coming back and telling David that he needs to off himself before he kills somebody else. And David doesn't want to believe any of this. I can understand why. But then he starts having these insane nightmares. They're really strange, and some of them feel like they're coming from a different movie. I really like the dreams because it gives the movie a weird feeling, like you never really know what's real and what's not. Then David starts realizing that Jack was right, and that something is really wrong with him. The biggest reason people remember this film is because of the transformation scene, where he turns into the werewolf. And this is probably one of the best transformation scenes in any werewolf movie ever made. The scene is insane. David's body starts changing, his bones are moving, his face is all distorted, and you can actually see the transformation happening. CGI isn't doing all the work. It's practical effects. You can almost feel the pain David is going through. Sound design makes it even better. You can hear all the movement of the bones and cracking, and it's gross. Which is exactly what it should feel like. And the werewolf itself looks really good. It looks like an actual animal. It's huge, it's ugly, it looks dangerous. And that's what I actually appreciate about the older horror movies. They had to actually build this stuff. But the effects aren't the only thing that make this movie work. The comedy's great too. I don't mean it's some goofy horror movie where nothing is, taken seriously. There are some really disturbing scenes, but the characters make it funny. David is funny, Jack is funny, and even some of the situations they're put in is, ridiculous. One of the funniest parts in the movie is that, David is constantly being haunted by Jack, and Jack is constantly trying to get off himself. Which sounds horrible when you say it out loud, but the way it's presented is pretty funny. The movie knows when to joke around and when to be serious. It doesn't feel like the comedy completely destroys the horror. If anything, the comedy makes the horror stand out more. Because you're comfortable laughing 1 minute, and the next minute it gives you something really disturbing. The London setting also works really well. The movie is filmed, mostly at nighttime, and something about London makes it just a really creepy atmosphere. The subway scenes are really good. There's a scene where David's being chased through the subway, and it feels completely different than the slower scenes you've seen earlier in the movie. It's fast, violent, and tense. And then you have the hospital scenes where it's more relaxed. The movie constantly switches between these different moods, and it doesn't feel completely, random. It fits David's situation perfectly. He's trying to figure out what's happening to him while everybody around him thinks he's just recovering from an animal attack. And then there's Alex. That's the nurse that David becomes involved with. Their relationship gives the movie a little more emotion. David isn't just some guy running around trying to survive. He's starting to care about somebody whenever he knows that he pretty much, he needs to die. And that's where the movie gets a little sad. He knows that if he turns into the werewolf again, that somebody else could die. And he doesn't really have control over it. He's basically trapped, and that's what makes the situation work. He's not fighting some evil monster. The monster is him. And I think the movie does a good job of telling you actually how, terrifying that would be. Imagine knowing you're going to lose control of yourself and hurt somebody, but there's nothing you can do about it. That's a horrible situation. The pacing might be a little slow for some people. This isn't one of those movies where something crazy happens every couple minutes. The movie takes its time, but I think that's one of the reasons the horror works. You spend time with David, you get to know him, so when things starts getting worse, you actually care about what's happening. And then you get to the ending. Without getting too deep into spoilers, David has to face what's happening to him. And there's not a happy ending waiting for him. That's probably the best way to end this kind of story. The whole movie has been David trying to escape what he's becoming. And eventually there's nowhere left for him to go. It's funny, it's messed up, and it's kind of sad. And that's really what I like about this movie. It's a horror, a comedy, a little bit of romance, and a character story all thrown into one. The practical effects are awesome, the transformation scene is awesome, the werewolf looks great, the comedy actually works, and the horror still holds up. There are definitely parts that feel like it's from the 80s, but that's not a bad thing. It's part of the charm, it has an identity. And that's something you don't always get with horror movies today. So if you've never seen this movie, give it a shot. Especially if you like practical effects and older horror movies. It's one of those movies that you can still watch today and understand why people still talk about it. And if you're going to remember anything from this film, it's definitely going to be the transformation. Because watching David turn into the werewolf is absolutely insane. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.